Hi, I'm Erik Hall. I'm the digital sports editor at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Today, I'm joined by John Bednarowski, who's the sports editor at the Marietta Daily Journal. He was the APSE president in 2018-19. Thanks for joining me, John.
No, I appreciate it. Anything for APSE.
It's APSE's 50th year, and how did you get involved with APSE?
Well, a lot of thanks can go to Phil Kaplan. And I'm sure that as you do some of these interviews with some of the more recent presidents, you will hear a similar answer, because Phil was the one that was reaching out to all of the folks that weren't already members. And it was great to come along. I had just gotten hired in Marietta back in 2006. And I think it was 2007, Phil got with me. And at that point, we had the small paper judges scholarship. I can't exactly remember the exact name of it, but being from a small paper, they brought me out to judging. And from that point on, I was hooked, because that first year, or that first judging, was at a hotel in Las Vegas. And I remember getting out there and kind of being starstruck a little bit, because all of a sudden, somebody from the Marietta Daily Journal is, kind of rubbing elbows with Tom Jolly, who's the sports editor of the New York Times at the time, and Joe Sullivan, who's in Boston, and Jerry Micco from Pittsburgh, and, Gary D. Howard from Milwaukee. So it was, you just kind of sit there but it didn't take long to realize that everybody's on an equal playing field. Some staffs are bigger than others, obviously, but many of the same issues are shared by everybody across the board. And, there was nobody that was big time in anybody else. And like I like to tell people, they're just as full of crap as I am. So that made that an easy transition. And I think that's why I hold APSE in such high esteem, because there is no gamesmanship, no one-up kind of thing. Hey, we're a bigger publication than you are. I don't want to have to deal with you. That's not the way APSE works. And I think, at least in my case, I've benefited from that, with the fact that if I need something, or we have players or teams or something going into those areas, I can reach out, make a phone call, they'll answer. Vice versa, I've been able to help out a lot of other bigger publications with stuff on my end. So, it's a two-way street. And, everything that we've done for APSE is kind of a labor of love.
Yeah. What led to you becoming APSE president?
Well, it was a goal of mine, because coming from a small paper, at the time, really one of the few things that you could do is run for third vice president. Now, once you're done with third vice president, you're automatically nominated for second VP. I had been third vice president, and I got lucky in two ways. One, Tommy Dees had gotten elected a couple of years ahead of me. He, at that point, was from the smallest paper, I believe, to ever have somebody elected to be president. If he doesn't clear that path, I'm not sure if I get elected, because I don't want to be known as the small paper guy that screwed it up. So everything that he did was great, and I'd like to think that I was able to follow with a good presidency of my own. But I had run a couple, 2 or 3 times and lost. And I tried it again. And the other thing that I got lucky on, and I don't know if this is good, bad, or indifferent. Well, it's was bad for him. It was good for me. Todd Adams had gotten elected and unfortunately became ill and had to resign his position to take care of his health issues. So 2 people were elected that spring to fill the first and the second vice president roles. Jeff Rosen was elected first vice president, and then I was elected second vice president, and I had to win 2 elections in one, because the first time when the votes were counted, I was actually tied with Ed Guzman, who was in Seattle at the time and is now the assistant sports editor out in Los Angeles. And I'm still trying to figure out why everybody thought that, I should beat Ed, but in the runoff, I did. And I became and still am the president from the smallest publication ever to hold office, and I am very, very proud of that. I'm hoping that stands for a long, long time.
I remembered most of those details, but I didn't remember the part about the runoff with Ed Guzman. So I'd forgotten that you had to run twice to win it.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I found out that I had won in arguably one of my 2 or 3 favorite places on earth, because Jack Berninger called me to let me know that I won, and I was sitting in the press gallery at Augusta National at the Masters. So the Masters always will have a bigger part of my heart because of that.
That's a pretty great place to find out that news.
I thought so anyway, yeah.
What are some things you achieved and are most proud of from your time as APSE president?
Well, there are a couple. One of them involves our annual contest, because as I became a national officer, and I was on the board for 5 years, so I got to see, I was part of the changes that brought everything from caveman days, where we were doing cut and paste and all that. Mary Byrne got the ball rolling by making it through Google Docs and different things.
Lost connection there for a bit, but you were talking about your experience being in the judging room for APSE.
Well, we moved the contest from copy and paste into a more digital platform. I think Mary Byrne gets a lot of that credit. Tommy, Mike Sherman, and a few others. The last thing, or the thing that I did with the contest, and the reason that I'm talking about this first is because it's the middle of contest season, and I'm currently playing with that. I brought in the links. We were just doing links instead of having to copy and paste things into the Google Docs. The thing that I am absolutely most proud of is I was able to create, Michael Anastasi and George Rojas got the Diversity Fellowship program up and running. And one of the things that I noticed while I was president is that, it's an educational based program, but we had not taken the steps to make it a 501c3 nonprofit entity, to where we could go out and hopefully get donors to the program to help it grow. And I did the paperwork and the legwork and all that stuff, wrote the bylaws and everything. to get that up and running. And I am so proud of the way that Michael has taken advantage of that. Don Shelton's doing a great job as executive director. I think we're going to be able to start seeing more and more people come through that diversity fellowship program, and we'll be able to expand our educational opportunities through that for APSE going forward. That to me is the big thing, and for everybody to put their faith in me to get it done, that is the crowning achievement by far.
Yeah, that was a big move, and you should be proud of that.
Thank you.
What would you say APSE has meant to you professionally?
To me, it's meant everything. It's given me people to be soundboards when I've needed advice or needed help with things. It's helped me build long-lasting friendships that will last, and not only my entire career, but hopefully long into retirement if I am able to do so. And it gives me an opportunity to also see all of the talented people that are coming up behind us, because journalism is in good hands. There's no doubt about that, because we have a lot of talented people doing a lot of talented things, making me look like I'm a dinosaur, which I am. It's funny because I sit here, I'm 16, 17 years into the membership with APSE. And when I joined, I felt like I was one of the young guys. And now my cohort, Tommy D's and a few of the rest of us, all of a sudden we're the old guys. And I'm trying to figure out when that happened.
Talking about, it sounds like you're starting to transition to talk about that, but what has APSE meant to you on a personal level and the relationships you've made through the organization?
Well, I mean, it's been almost 2 decades worth of memories. The contest recognition has been nice and things like that, but it's the stories and getting together. That's why the taking advantage of the opportunities of judging and the summer convention, where you're able to network and really get to know people. That's where it's all at. Funny story. And Robert will probably hate me for telling this, but one of the things that really sticks out is Tommy and Robert and I and a couple other people. We went to this restaurant in Orlando, not far from where we were judging, called Johnny's Hideaway. It's no longer there, unfortunately, but one of the item menus or menus on the one of the items on the menu was a seafood tower. Now there's 4 or 5 people here at the table, and unfortunately I am allergic to seafood, so all I got to do was sit back and watch. But Robert Gagliardi, who's a sports editor out in Wyoming for years, he looked at the waiter and said, "Give us one of those and put it on me." And I don't know how often you order things off a menu that says market price. Let's just say he learned a lesson that day not to necessarily do that, because this thing came out and it was 3 or 4 levels and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And when it arrived, he had to go outside to do a radio interview. So everybody else dived in on this thing, and they saved him a plate worth of appetizers, and when he got the bill, it was $150 for the seafood tower, and that's become a running joke for about the last 6 or 8 years, where we will often send him said picture on that anniversary date. But it's stuff like that where you can just kind of sit back and laugh, and it's all good memories. There are very few bad memories when you think about APSE. It's only good stuff.
Are there any other memories that stick out that you want to share? Or?
Well, I'll tell you what. When here's advice to all future APSE presidents: do not be the president and the convention host in the same year. Now, 2019, the convention was in Atlanta. I thought we put together a really good program, but that's a lot of legwork. But one of my favorite memories, not only was that where the membership gave me the go-ahead to get the 501c3 done for the foundation, but the officers, Todd Adams and Lisa Wilson, and Dan Spears and Robert, everybody, they presented me with one of my favorite keepsakes. They got me a Cleveland Browns jersey, authentic jersey, and on the back it says APSE Prez, and it happened to be number 19 for 2019 when I was there, but it also turned out to be my favorite player from the Browns, being Bernie Kosar, who was number 19. So, I mean, that's I don't know if Todd dug into stuff and figured that one out or what, but he said that they were going to get me a 30-pound bag of dog food, which would have been perfectly fine and would have gotten used, but no, that's one of those things that I'm going to have hanging on my wall for a long time once I stop wearing it at the conventions.
Yeah. Well, I want to share one of my favorite memories of you. The first time I went to judging.
Good.
But the first time I went to judging was in Indianapolis, and you were the head of the judging group that I was in, and you made it such a welcoming experience. I'd been to a couple summer conventions at that point, but that was my first judging, and you made it such a welcoming experience, and I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that too. It's awfully nice to hear. I'm as much as I love the summer conventions, I think you learn a lot more during the winter convention, just because when you're doing all of this work and reading all these stories and looking at these sections, you're always stealing ideas.
Yeah.
And just like you mentioned with me, and I appreciate that, I learned from Jerry Micco. And that's the thing about APSE. You're always passing down that knowledge that you've learned from the people that have come before you. And it shows. It really shows.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Or?
Well, I'm hoping that when this comes out, it's in front of a full house at the 50th convention in Las Vegas. But just everybody keep your faith in APSE. You will get out of it exactly what you put into it. So take the time to make yourself available, and it will come back to you in 3, 4, 5-fold.
Well, thanks so much for your time, John.
Thanks, Eric.